Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpa Tribhishcha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Good morning, everybody. Um, let's see. Today we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam 1081-25. This chapter's um, about Sudama Brahmana and Lord Krishna. And I have to apologize that I did not sleep so well last night. And so I'm going to do my best to um, serve you all.
Excuses.
Patim agatam akarnya patyanudar shati sambrama Nishkakrama grihaturnam rupini ivalayat. Patim, her husband. Agatam, come. Akarnya, hearing. Patni, his wife. Udharsha, jubilant. Ati, extremely. Sambrama, excited. Nishkrama, she came out, Grihat, from the house, Turnam, quickly, Rupini, manifesting her personal form, Shri, goddess of fortune, Eva, as if, Alayat, from her abode. Translation. When she heard that her husband had arrived, the Brahmana's wife quickly came out of the house in a jubilant flurry. She resembled the goddess of fortune herself emerging from her divine abode. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami points out that since Lord Krishna had turned Sudama's house into a heavenly abode, everyone living there now possessed beautiful bodies and attire appropriate to the residents of heaven. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti adds this insight. The night before, Sudama's poor, emaciated wife had been sleeping in rags under a crumbling roof. But when she woke in the morning, she found herself and her house wonderfully changed. Only for a moment was she confused. She then realized that this opulence was the Lord's gift to her husband, who must be on his way home. Thus she prepared to greet him. This is probably this is one of the dear stories in Srimad Bhagavatam to me. Um, because of the humility of Sudama Brahmana. Actually, Sudama Brahmana is one of Lord Krishna's old friends from childhood. Um, I believe they went to Gurukul together, and he always has remained a devotee of Krishna and lived a very simple life. Brahmanas don't necessarily, in general, like traditional Brahmanas don't generally seek wealth and um, having opulence. So he lived a very simple life um, as a teacher. Brahmanas are uh, the intellectual class of Vedic culture. And so their emphasis is on knowledge and teaching others, cultivating knowledge and devotion, and then teaching others to do the same. They sacrifice their life to help others in the sense where they are driven by they're driven by their desire to serve people in a way of transmitting knowledge. And their propensity is to distribute knowledge mercifully. There's the Kripana and then the Brahmana. The Kripana wants to keep the knowledge to themselves, and the Brahmana wants to give, 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 give. So this was his emphasis in life, and not so much on economic development. So even though he was a householder, and his situation was such that he lived in a decrepit, the house was falling down around him. It was not a ideal situation. They were struggling to meet the basic comforts of life and even the basic needs of life. And his wife, who has served him so nicely for so many years, was finally like, "Hey, why don't you go see Lord Krishna and you're such a wonderful devotee of Krishna. Why don't you go and ask him to help us?" And he will surely help if you ask. And the Brahmana did not want to bother Krishna with material things. He did not want to go to Krishna and ask him for um, help in this way. And from a philosophical point of view, he's not wrong. Um, in scripture, we hear that one should not go to Krishna for material things. Prabhupada said this so many times. He said, "Why ask God for bread? Bread is already there." Um, so we don't need to pray for our daily bread. Prabhupada said that so many times in relation to this. So the Brahmanas said, "Why should I go to?" In his mind, did not want to bother Krishna. Though his wife said, "Well, you go and bring him an offering, but all we have is chipped rice, simple chipped rice, a little bag of chipped rice." And he goes to Krishna, and they sit down in his room and talk. And the Brahmana does not want to even present the gift to Krishna. But when he goes to leave, Krishna says something along the lines, is there something that you have for me? The Brahmana doesn't want to give to him, but Krishna gets it from him. And and he relishes the gift like anything, because this is actually the Brahmana's heart is one of humility and feeling unqualified. And he felt that his gift was not suitable for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Krishna saw that Krishna knew he didn't even have to say what his wife had put him up for. And when he returned, well, like this verse says, his wife woke up. She had gone to sleep in rags in this house that the roof was falling in. And she wakes up and she's dressed beautifully, and the house is a mansion, and they have everything they ever would ever want and more, beyond what they could even conceive having. And when the Brahmana, as we'll read in following verses, comes home, when Sudama comes home, he is totally astonished. Can you imagine hardly being able to recognize his wife? And he's thinking maybe he took a wrong turn and went to the wrong house. But that's Lord Krishna. Krishna has everything that we need. There's no lack. Krishna does not lack anything. He carries what we have and preserves He preserves what we have and carries what we lack. And we actually, I found in my own life, I've never gone without anything. Even when I made and had no money, even when I've almost hit zero, I've I've always had all the basics and more. Never gone without a meal. Especially in the Hare Krishna movement. You never go without a meal. But but yeah, so Krishna provides. Krishna always provides. And there's so many stories that show this, that Krishna takes care of his devotees, even though we feel unqualified. And um, it's Christmas Eve today, and I've been meditating on the life of Christ and his messages and and his words and his example. And Christ also lived a life of a mendicant, a little different than Sudama, but he lived totally dependent on the land and other people, and well, ultimately God. And and he always had everything he needed and more. He never felt like, oh, I need to gather wealth or I need to do this or that. And he lived a very simple life, but his life was for others. He was a Brahmana, um, a teacher. That was his main mission in life, is to teach others about the love of God and to save people from from certain peril. So, but he sacrificed his words, he sacrificed his comforts, he sacrificed his life ultimately for the betterment of others. And in those people, those personalities who do this, they actually have everything. They have the kingdom of God. And as we read here, um, in the purport, there's let me see. Um, he lived now. Lord Krishna had turned Sudama's house into a heavenly abode. Everyone living there now possessed beautiful bodies and attire appropriate to the residents of heaven. So, and then in one of the last sentences, she then realized that the opulence was the Lord's gift to her husband who must be on his way home. So the opulence he received was actually sort of like heaven on earth. And actually, when we have a household like this one that I'm in right now, it is a temple. It is actually a it is like a mini kingdom of God if we have that intention. So we set up an altar and we chant here and we have kirtan and we make prasadam and we offer prasadam, boga to become prasadam rather. And we have other people over to um, for them to partake in these things. So, but the point is, we have this home, and I often say my house is bigger than I can even use every day for myself. Like sometimes there's rooms here I don't even use, and like for weeks, and um, they aren't. It's not for me, and so I'm always like, whenever I know friends are in town or whatnot, I want them to stay here to serve them. And in a way, this is not the most opulent house or anything like that, but we have everything we ever need here. We never are without grains. We're never without um, food in our refrigerator, and we have nice things. But the feeling of it feels like a place, like a sacred place. And like I realize this more when I travel somewhere and I'm not home for a week or two. And I come home and I'm like, oh wow, this is a very special place. And it's not me and not my doing. It's the blessings of the Lord, and I realize this. And there's a feeling when you have even a little dedication to forming like to creating a temple in a house, then Krishna blesses that place. And especially if you what say if you have an altar or other sacred um, yeah, other sacred things in your home, that place becomes even more and more spiritualized. And then if you have holy people come over here, actually, I bought this house from a devotee, and one of the reasons it was during a time when houses were getting snatched up like really fast, a couple years ago, almost 3 years ago, and then we saw this for sale by owner house. Like we kept missing out on houses because people were just snatching it up, and we didn't have cash to like buy a house, and we were just gonna be like a regular loan. And we saw we saw actually as a for sale by owner in the email when I sent them an email and he sent me one back. Um, it was a devotee who I knew. Like he was using his like legal name for the email, but then when he messaged me back, I think he messaged me in the wrong email, like quote unquote wrong email. And I was like, oh, I know this devotee. He's Prabhupada disciple. I've known him for some years. And so we went and we looked at the place. And somehow it came up of like the history of the house and whatnot. And my spiritual master had actually been here before and they bathed his feet here before. So I don't think we learned about that right away, but I felt like after we made the offer and everything, like the second time we came over, that was when I found out, and then my wife and I were like, well, if we had any doubts if this was the right place to buy, then those doubts are removed now. Because yeah, our guru had been worshipped here, and his feet were even bathed in this house, so that's very special. Um, I can say that that doesn't happen in many places. I think they really like this devotee, like really like convinced him to do it. Because usually that's something you do in like Vyasa Puja or something. Like, yeah. So anyway, somehow or other he's had his feet bathed here. So I just feel like this house was blessed because of that. And yeah, so like I guess my point is that these houses can become miniature spiritual abodes. And these places can be what's a regular house built by, regular old people in this world, can turn into a spiritual abode by bringing in intention, spiritual intention, by bringing in chanting, by bringing in the Lord's devotees and serving people here, setting up an altar. These houses then become temples, places of restoration, where your most intimate relationships will be formed and developed and grow, and that you'll have a place to rest and worship and to honor guests and to yeah, have kirtans. Then the regular old house becomes a very special place representing the spiritual world. So I found that I'm actually in real estate. My profession is real estate. I'm a real estate agent and investor. And my meditation is whenever I'm helping someone purchase a home, that this is going to be their temple. And it's a very sacred process. And that's how I really find a lot of purpose in what I do, is because, especially here and where I live, there's a lot of devotees, but even those who are unrealized devotees, I always meditate on like this is a place where they're gonna make it to a sacred place, and that is a very special thing to me. I actually really love, and I love like um, I also love turning a place that is um, maybe run down like Sudama's house and making it a beautiful place. Like that to me is a very like a wonderful meditation that a place that was uninhabitable practically can be turned into a place that people can live in and turn into their sacred abode. Um, yeah. So, and it's interesting to me the power of the Lord in regards to households that when I was a brahmachari for 8 years, I couldn't even imagine ever even owning a house. And somehow or other, within like the first year of my, moving into the next phase of life from being a brahmachari monk, I was able to purchase my first house. And I had like hardly any money, but people care about my wife and I, and our family members helped out, and we were able to get a place. And yeah, and that was 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. Yeah. So I always say that the Lord, I mean, I have personal experience that doesn't, money is never the issue for anything. The Lord always takes care. If you have a desire to serve Him in a certain way, He will always take care. There's no doubt, no doubt in my mind. Literally, I can't even, yeah, I was like, maybe not like Sudama Brahmana, but I was definitely like, yeah, very not really in a strong financial place at that time. We're still able to not just rent. It wasn't just renting. I purchased the house, so and I still own that house. I don't live there anymore, but I still own it, and it's become a great blessing to my family. So it's yeah, Krishna is yeah, he is our greatest well-wisher, and I know we hear that so many times. It's it's almost like when you hear it, it doesn't hit the same every time. But really, if you think about it, he really is our greatest well-wisher. That he actually, we really don't have a better friend in the sense where he'll always be there, never give up on us, that'll always bless us and unconditionally love us and want us to come back to him so that we can associate with him, just like Sudama Brahmana. The Lord brought him into his room, sat him on his bed, um, yeah, and worshipped him. So that's Sudama Brahmana is a very special personality, of course, but the Krishna also wants to reciprocate with us, like we're also special in his eyes, and we each have an essence that he desires to relate with and to enjoy with. And so we should always, there's actually no reason to ever feel materially down about ourselves, or maybe I should say spiritually down about ourselves, because we are part of Krishna, and that's a wonderful thing. And there's really no reason to feel depressed or to feel um, alone, which is hard in this material world. There's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of depression. There's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of heartache in this world. But really, if we tune in and remember that we are part of Krishna and that we are dear to him and that we are beautiful and um, pure and spiritual, and that actually we're perfect because we're part of Krishna. Um, we may be materially contaminated, but that's temporary. We should just always remember that um, because we're part of Krishna, that there's no reason to lament because we're Sat Chitananda, that we're full of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. And n no situation in this material world could ever take that away from us. That is our inherent nature. And so um, that could literally be a daily morning meditation before you do anything. And, they have morning affirmations that people do, but really that's Sat Chitananda affirmation is the best of them all because that is literally who we are. So, thank you for allowing me to purify my consciousness by speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. I'd like to open up for any discussion or questions. There's a lot of people at Bhakti Center today.
Hare Krishna.
There's a lot of devotees there. Hare
Can you
Krishna.
hear us okay? Hello? I don't think you can hear me.
Hello, yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's interesting how you brought the class right to your own experience and how Krishna provides and how he's cared for you and how you're using what Krishna's giving you for preaching Krishna consciousness. And the Vedic culture, Prabhupada explains that every house, and I've seen this even in places like, Taiwan, Korea, Mexico, that people have a little house, even if it's a very small house, but they always install the deity, whether it's Buddha or Krishna or Mary. And the consciousness Prabhupada explained is that this is not my house. This is Krishna's house. I'm cleaning his floor. I'm cooking his breakfast. So that it doesn't become like my house and that I have a deity, but Krishna has me as his servant, and this is his place. And then in the maybe in the Hasidic tradition, there's a whole thing about how there's the stories in the scripture, and then the sages, the different people that are familiar with spiritual culture, there's a word for it. I can't think of it, where they embellish the story, and the devotees in California did this embellishment of this story of Sodoma Vipra, and some of the things that they added to the story are not there in the scripture, but it's an enhancement of the fact that Sodoma Vipra was a Brahmin, and he was a good Brahmin, and he was, pious and religious and followed principles, and he was vigorously reaching out to others and sharing the scripture, and not necessarily endeavoring for an income, but trying to give Krishna consciousness. And then, like you mentioned, he went to visit Krishna. They have this saying, pay a visit. Sometimes we pay a visit to somebody in the hospital or somebody in prison. And he went to pay a visit to Krishna, even though he was encouraged, maybe you should go and ask Krishna for some financial help. His consciousness was, let me go there and please the Lord. And because he pleased Krishna by his um, coming there to show his affection and appreciation, and remembering how they served the spiritual master together, and how that was the nature of
Yeah.
the relationship. Even us, whether we're in a marriage or a friendship, our basic, the underlying glue of the relationship is that we're engaged in devotional service. We talk about Krishna, we encourage each other in faith in Krishna, we encourage each other in practicing sadhana and in pleasing Krishna by reaching out to others. So there's so much to milk out of this story. Thank you for what you shared. I don't know if what I shared is much of a contribution. I was praying to Prabhupada what to say today, but all glories to Srila Prabhupada, and wonderful situation of how finances and resources. And just one more thing, I'm sorry I'm talking so long, but I saw this one where there was a film clip of a devastating cyclone that tore this town to pieces, and the reporters went there and with the television cameras, and it was on the internet. Oh, everybody was crying. I lost my mother's picture and I can't find this, and my house is destroyed. And then this trap door opened right where the reporter was standing, and a man came out with a baby and a little toddler and his wife, and their house was like vaporized to just to powder, to nothing, to dust. And the reporter ran over there with the microphone. What do you think, sir? What do you think? He said, well, this was in Alabama. The good Lord giveth, and the good Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But sometimes Krishna will provide something, or sometimes Krishna will provide us something that seems like a hardship, But what the residual thing that is not moved is our faith and our glorification of the Lord and our desire to serve him, regardless of whether we get a mansion or a shack
Hmm.
or,
Hmm.
or rags. I'm sorry to talk so long. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. Appreciate that. Jamuna Jaya.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for class. And I put it in the chat box. But don't
Oh,
be like you're no, when you were saying, oh, I hope I'll be okay today. Your offerings are always wonderful and joyful. And as we learn in this story, the intention is what Krishna sees. So just want to show you about that. But there is something that really struck to me about this verse, and Adi then just kind of like brought it home. It's like when Sudama's wife sees the opulence, it says just for she was confused just for a second, and then she realized. And
hmm,
it's so beautiful what she realized. She didn't for a second think, I did this. She really, really, this is God. This is the greatness of Krishna. And my husband's
hmm,
coming home. And I'm really struck by her faith throughout this whole pastime. But this really tells us not for a second did she think I'm the doer, not for a second did she think anything. This is Krishna. And so that part really struck out to me when you spoke of it. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Hmm. Yeah, the devotees of the Lord, they always give Krishna the credit. They never take the credit themselves. They say Krishna provided this. They always see everything in relation to him. Hare Krishna.
Harbo Brajananda Prabhu, obeisances to you. Thank you very much for your wonderful class. Wonderful to hear how you're living in a holy tirtha where the lotus feet of the spiritual master have been washed. So, your blessing.
We want to go there.
It was a great, just me saying that was a great reminder to me.
Hare Krishna. Bro, I have a question. Maybe you could elaborate how, of course, this pastime of Sudama Vipra is. How can we follow in the footsteps of Sudama Vipra and make sure that we don't try to imitate, and what could be the possible dangers of imitating this level or like that, or the benefits of following in the footsteps? I don't know if that makes any sense.
Don't go broke.
Imitate. Yeah, is that what you mean? Like imitation as in how he went to Krishna or how he lived his life?
Maybe so many,
Either one.
yeah, however, yeah.
Okay. Well, they lived in a very unique time where people would take care of brahmanas. Nowadays, it's even if you're Brahminically inclined, a lot of brahmanas work or they have a job or they teach in a different way that allows them to receive income or trade. I guess trade's maybe not the best word, but um, they do service for their temple or situation or whatever the situation is for their basic necessities, which is basically what I did when I first when I first like graduated from the Brahmachari ashram. I was a temple president for a year, and it was very humble. It was a very humble situation. Um, and I realized during that time that if I was wanting to have a family in America, then I was gonna have to figure ways how to make like a good amount of money. So, but then I took that as a great opportunity to become educated, financially literate, and become, uh, yeah, just find ways how to make money and what I would what I would like to do to make money in a way that I still thought was in line with my values. So yeah, I feel like it's everyone's different, of course, and everyone has their unique path and their unique attraction towards a certain lifestyle. I will say that I have had friends who did not put much like thought. Okay, let's put it this way. I've had friends who have um, graduated or moved on from the brahmacharya ashram, and they tried the whole renounced life as a grihasta, and a lot of them married even, and I for whatever reason I don't really know the details, but got divorced, and I know some of them that happened twice to them, and the reality is in marriage, finances are definitely a bit can be a big stress point, and can be um, yeah, I mean that can be a big arg that can be multiple arguments, can be a big stressor, and I can say heard from uh I've heard from devotees, friends of mine who were married to a devotee who wanted to live this way, and it was very challenging. Some of them came around, some of them didn't. And the ones, I'm not saying this happened to everybody, and everyone's unique. But I've seen some have to go through divorce because of this reason. And it's, it was like, came down to the point where mm, it just wasn't a realistic expectation of lifestyle for like for the relationship. And I I'm not a marriage counselor or anything by any means, definitely not. But I would say, like, there has to be some very clear conversations and willingness to work together, and to assess your situation and figure out what's the best for um, your life at that moment. And yeah, I would say that it's definitely, especially in America. I don't know about other places in the world, but to live a normal lifestyle, you have to at least make, like, I would say, like, even in the like most poor areas in the country, you have to at least make $30,000 a year. Find something that you can at least do that. But realistically, to live like a normal life, you have to probably make 100 or 150 in most places in this country. So um, at least if you're going to raise children and want to like have a retirement plan, or yeah, just a normal life, like like an American life where you're not like on food stamps and dependent on other people, which is for for at least for me, I would really not want to be dependent on other people in that way. It's not a great feeling. So I feel like it behooves devotees, and I can only speak from my experience, but those who are graduating from the Brahmacharya ashram, which in this day and age, there's not really much training in that ashram for graduating from that ashram. I think Giant and I believe you and I have talked about this actually when we talked on the phone on Zoom a year ago maybe, is that so many devotees struggle with this, and there's not really training for the next ashram in the brahmacharya ashram, right? And it's literally like, I mean, it blows my mind, and I had the same thing happen to me where I had no training. I had to figure it out for myself. Luckily, I had some mentors, but yeah, I mean, it's when you're entering a whole new world, especially if I spent like 8 years in brahmacharya ashram, you're into a whole new world of life when you graduate from the ashram, and you want to get married, and then you want to have a house, and you want to have, and you want to do all the things that come with the grihastha ashram. There's cars, there's like buying groceries, there's like the whole independent life, I guess you could say. It's just like there's health insurance, there's a lot of things that cost a lot of money, and so I love actually helping um my friends who are just graduating from the ashram. I'm like, all right, let's sit down and talk. And I remember the one of my friends lived with me for a while, and I was literally just like I was just like, bro, you have to figure out how to make money. It was like our conversation, and he was so adverse to, I could just tell in his, because he'd also spent a lot of time in the Brahmachari ashram. It was like, that was not a very, like, that was not one of his like interests, I guess you could say, and so I think he's still figuring it out. But but yeah, I remember like literally I was just like being very straight up with him. It's like it's very simple and it's a spiritual endeavor if you have the right consciousness. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're gonna get married and have a grihastha ashram, it's just find something that you can make a good amount of money that will sustain your ideal lifestyle and live in Krishna consciousness that way. Simple as that. And just the whole wrapping your mind around like making money is hard for some people. A lot of people perhaps. Anyway, I'm kind of going on about this, but I'm kind of passionate about it since I came from literally zero. So yeah. Hope that helps. Hope that sheds some light on it.
Thank you very much. I think Bhimapur had
Prabhu, do you know what the term mortgage, what the etymology is, the meaning of those words, mortgage? Do you know what that is? The
I
Latin?
don't know. No,
Yeah,
no, I don't.
mortal, death. And gaj is grip, death grip. That's what mortgage means, death grip. But no, along what you were saying, Prabhu, and that's what a brahmachari feels like. When you get that first mortgage, you're like, holy, 30 years, I've got to put my shoulder to the plow, and she's driving with the whip. And that's what it is, and it's a labor of love. And Prabhupada said that you'll recognize my devotees that they're true gentlemen, and of course, true ladies. And a true gentleman takes care of his own. He's responsible. That's what a gentleman does. He takes care of that daughter that has been given to him by Krishna, Krishna's daughter, and he was willing to sacrifice his life. And that's the only thing that you need to have as an attitude as a grihastha, that you're willing to put your shoulder into the and make a house and a home, as Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who had 10 children and was a
Mm,
magistrate, said, "My home became heaven." And it's
mm,
unfortunate that in the brahmachari ashram, you have that bhogatiyaga, you have that, you know, they grow up and it's like all of a sudden they get lonely, but they've been trained. I went through that, trying to be renounced in a marriage. Let me just tell you something.
yeah.
I've never seen it work, ever. The true renouncement is to renounce your ego, that somehow your renouncement makes any difference to Krishna, because it doesn't. Nothing we have is ours anyways. Hare Krishna.
Hadi, well, thank you. I appreciate the true enunciation is your ego. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Cool.
Yeah, Shri Shri Radha Murli Dharma Chandra Ki Jai. Govinda Hari Krishna Bow down to his lotus feet, great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Brajananda Prabhu, you still here? No, you left. Okay, we're happy for Jayananda. What's his name? I forget. Ja Brajananda. We're happy for Brajananda. He's a happy devotee. You want to be happy and practical in Krishna consciousness. Bhima Prabhu, thank you for your valuable instructions. Don't try that at home type instructions. Thank you.
Go out there and make lots and lots of money.
Who's making lots and lots of money?
I said everyone should go out there. If you're married, you got to go out and you got to do You got to fight the good fight. That's all there is to it. And Krishna will be right there beside you. That's what Kurukshetra is all about. It's going on right now in our hearts. And you got to fight. Krishna wants you to fight. He doesn't want you to run off to the woods. That's the first thing he does. It's like, you're not going to run off to the woods. Sometimes brahmacharya life, we can get into that illusion that somehow in this world we're going to run off to the woods and my wife is going to follow me. You living alone, you do what you want to do. But as soon as you get married, you give up your ego. And that teaches you, Prabhupada said that my householders will become more advanced than my brahmacharis quicker, because they understand by virtue of the manifestation of unconditional love, sacrifice, tolerance, humility, because a good woman will make you humble. So it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Grihastha life is a blessing.
Yeah,
Hare Krishna.
there's no escape. There's no escape. We just have to face our battles and embrace them. Narottam Nitai put something in the chat. My understanding is that devotees don't like to come together to talk about making money. Yeah, we talk about Krishna. You're right. We're not talking about making money. Talking about Krishna. And then there's some practical aspects of talking about Krishna, which may include maintenance, absolutely. But
No,
we
you
don't
got to
talk
tie them. You
specifically
got to
about
tie them
money.
together. You got to
Yeah,
tie them together.
yeah,
You got to be on a mission. If you're on a mission, then you have the will. You're on a mission. You want to distribute literature, then make money and go out and buy lots of Bhagavad Gitas and put them in hotels. There's a couple up here in Boston who has distributed tens of thousands of Bhagavad Gitas in every hotel throughout New England. And they do it by virtue of the fact that they have the money to do that and to donate. And the hotel owners, and some of them are not even Indian. They welcome, because the people are very sweet. But just see how that was done, and what to speak of Adi's and yours program, Interfaith. All these people come in, they get to meet Krishna, they see pictures of Krishna. This requires putting your shoulder to the plow, and that's the sacrifice. That's the true brahmacharya. The true brahmacharya is you're sold out to the mission, whether you are, sitting alone with a bald head and saffron robes, or whether you're out there, throwing hands at the world in order to, uh, you know, win people for Krishna, win souls for Krishna. Hare Krishna.
thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Narottam Nitai. It's not easy being alone to do so. Hence, it's easier to have a spouse to do so. Also, many others do like to try to run away from with money. Steve Jobs, Apple is an example. Yeah. Yeah, Krishna will send us a person when we're prepared and qualified and eager to take responsibility. Jamuna Jaya.
Hey, Krishna. I just want to elaborate something I put in the text about the money thing and the shelter. I was thinking that in this pastime, we hear that the shelter was literally crumbling down. Their home was crumbling down, right? But then the ultimate shelter is Krishna, and then they got everything that they needed. So I've really been thinking that, that's what it is. It's like, we have to be in this world. Yes, certain things have to be done, but what are we taking shelter of? And that is the big difference, I think. If we're taking shelter of Krishna, then it's all going to be good. If we're taking shelter of the mighty dollar bill, then we're setting ourselves up somewhere down the road for disaster.
Yep.
So it's all like, what do we ultimately? We got to do the do. Rent's got to get paid, but what are we really taking shelter of? Is really what I was thinking. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah. It's a necessity, not the goal. The goal is Krishna. And then the necessity will be taken care of. I remember I did my astrology several times. They all said different things. So I gave up eventually. But when I was into it, I was like, I'm losing shelter in Krishna. I'm taking shelter of Saturn and Jupiter and all those massive planets. But where's my shelter? My shelter is the blue boy. My shelter is the devotees association. So same goes for money. We don't want to be too much, absorbed in that. That will come. If our desire is to please Krishna, to serve the Guru, then some practical things can be done without harming our sadhana, harming our faith in Krishna. Yeah, when we are prepared, the facility will be provided. Right? Mary Ellison, you're not in. Yeah, you have facility to play with in service of Krishna? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you have to do the do. What really stuck out to me was Bhima describing it as throwing hands with the world.
Yeah.
That's that's what it feels like sometimes. You know, especially gearing up to go see family for the holidays for the next 2 days. Um,
Yeah.
but but knowing that the shelter is with Krishna, it makes that much easier. It
Yeah.
does. And then, I looked out the window and it's snowing. And something about that felt extra magical. I can't really explain it, but it just felt like a nice little validation.
Yep, so it's a massive validation.
Yeah.
True. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, let Adipurusha Prabhu be the finisher today. Please say something bona fide, Adipurusha Prabhu.
Well, everything everybody said is bona fide. Basically covered the subject very nicely, especially what you said, Jamuna Jaya and Uncle Bhima. There are a few, praying to Prabhupada what to say, a few things from scripture that says, well, life's goal is not just to accumulate things, but that doesn't mean we're lazy. Prabhupada said to Dhananjaya in London, he said, there's Lakshmi everywhere. Just reach out and get it. We're looking out the front door of the Bhakti Center. Outside the door here, in every direction, there are thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are maintaining themselves. They have cars, they have houses, they have children, they have food. Everything's there. Any person with a little brain can maintain themselves. But I've noticed over the last 50 years, some devotees, they start a business so that they can maintain their family, which is not wrong. But then other devotees have started a business so that they could push on Lord Chaitanya's movement. And the facility to maintain their family was there as a byproduct. When we go out to feed the homeless, we're not thinking what I'm having for lunch. We're feeding dozens and dozens of people, but then prasadam is there. But we weren't thinking, what am I going to eat today? We're thinking, how can we give Krishna prasadam to somebody else? So similarly, the endeavor to raise Lakshmi is not wrong, and we can do it. The ones that I've seen that endeavor to push on a business to help Lord Chaitanya's movement, their businesses are 10 times the size of the ones who, well, we have to maintain our family, and then we'll just give a little bit we'll give something to the temple. That's like backwards. So it's easy to slip into that, and Jesus told his disciples, don't think about what you're going to eat. Don't think about where you're going to sleep. Don't think about what you're going to wear. Don't bring a bag of money with you. Just preach. So if the desire is to, like Jamuna Jaya Mataji was saying, wait a minute, Angel's talking. I'll wait till he's finished. If our desire is to preach and our endeavor is to preach and our Lakshmi raising is for preaching, that's an alternative we can choose. And
hold it. When we go back to our families, do we preach there? Or we stay humble and loving?
I don't see the
I'm
contrast.
asking for Mary Ellison. I got that down. Do we judge? Do we look down?
No,
No.
you shut up.
Then you have
You
to
shut up.
Yes.
When you go home, you shut up.
They're
Yes.
not mutually exclusive.
You
It's
pray for
included.
them. Pray
Seek
for them
first the king-
mentally.
All right,
But-
she's gonna pray.
But there are karmis.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah, true.
We're all in disguise. That's the whole thing. We're all in disguise. Sometimes we get caught up in the costume we're wearing. But if we understand that this is just a stage, then we can do anything for Krishna's sake, especially take care of our family.
Thank you. Adipusha Prabhu, you look like you didn't finish your wonderful.
I'm fine. I think everything was said even before I spoke, although I did try to contribute.
Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. Thank you very much.
You know the
Thank you.
term subset?
Upset? Yeah, I do that a lot.
Subset, not upset.
Stop set? No.
Okay. Then all the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, right? That's a subset. It's included in the set all numbers, right?
Mm.
If you serve Krishna, if you have $1 million, all your $10 problems are solved.
Hmm.
Everybody else has said this in different ways, but we're trying to emphasize the fact that this is not like a life of frantic endeavor to maintain ourselves in a desperate attempt so that we don't starve to death. We preach, serve Krishna, and then we accept you're entitled to perform your prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of the action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of your endeavor, of your results, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So we just preach, and then whatever comes, whether it's starvation or abundance, we go on with our service. Devotional service is the life of the soul.
Mm.
Oh no, Prasadam is the life of the soul. You got it wrong.
I got it wrong. You got it right. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much.
Uh,
Where is Karen? She was here briefly. Okay, let's see. Who wants to say Hare Krishna? How about Joshua? Joshua and Oliver,
Angel,
please.
you want to say Hare Krishna?
Hare
Hold on.
Krishna.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Merry Christmas, everybody. See you
Hare
tomorrow.
Krishna.
Thank you.